In order to stabilize the oil prices, the OPEC Plus launched a plan to cut oil production by 2 million barrels per day in October 22, till reaching 5.86 million barrels per day now. Cutting oil production means also cutting carbon emissions. Burning 1 barrel of oil will generate 0.426 tons of carbon. Assuming that 83% of the produced oil is burned, so the OPEC Plus is saving 2 million tons of carbon from combustion every day. Not only that, based on the report released by International Energy Agency, oil and gas operations, exploration, extraction, and transportation, account for around 15% of total energy-related emissions globally. So by cutting 5.86 million barrels per day, we save 374,000 tons of carbon emissions per day in operations only. Adding to that, adding to them, 2 million tons saved from combustion. So at the end, we are reaching like 2.37 million tons of carbon per day as a result of the OPEC Plus cuts. Miss Kate, this is a huge carbon saving. No country, any organization in the world is cutting carbon emissions such the OPEC Plus is doing at the moment. So as a result of the daily cuts, my question is, why the International Energy Agency or other organizations don't congratulate the OPEC Plus for this huge achievement regarding the planet?
Because it's not a permanent solution. I mean, that's a short answer. You are talking about production that fluctuates, it goes up and down. You've got OPEC Plus cutting production, but it's rising in places like Guyana, Brazil, United States, Canada. And it's, the thing is, you have to think not only about the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, which is from the production, the part that the producers can control, and scope 3, which is when it's burned on the consumer side. So it's very complex. I think one of the problems is that, yes, you're going to need to continue to produce oil and gas. I mean, that's whether it's going to peak this decade or the next, but you need to decarbonize it. So I think that is where the solution is. If you're going to carry on producing oil, no matter at whatever volumes, you really have to start decarbonizing, which brings us to carbon capture and storage, which brings us to direct air capture, all these things that will strip the carbon from the fossil fuels.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the OPEC, when we cut production, it means that we are saving emissions. And this is
yes,
a
but
huge...
we're about to start increasing production. I mean, if all goes to plan, OPEC is going to start tapering those cuts from October, and they're going to start adding more oil. So that's why I'm saying it's not a permanent solution. Yes, we've had a period where there was a need to support the price because demand was weak. And now we're going to start seeing maybe an increase in production. But you're right. I mean, there is no mention. And in fact, this is the first time that I've seen anybody really talk about the reduction in emissions from the OPEC Plus cuts. So that's interesting. But if you look at what's happening in the region, there's more investment going into gas, both conventional and unconventional. This is the issue with decarbonizing, with the whole transition. You have to transition, you have to tackle so many sectors at the same time, all at once. You have to tackle transportation, you've got to tackle heavy industry, you've got to tackle aviation and shipping and road transportation. It's prioritizing where you need to sort of invest first. And also there is an onus on the consumer countries, policymakers, to actually try to reduce demand for fossil fuels. So energy efficiency measures, which we're seeing, which is why the OECD demand is basically flat.